Carter, Pee Wee, B. Miller, Mark Stitt. I can name some more, no cap. That's some real shit. Lil Nick, Bank Street, nigga used to have you sick.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is your boy Chris B. Daniels, and you are now on ShowNTalk. Alrighty, folks. So, last week, we had actually watched the very first Ninja Turtles movie that came out in 1990. And I said I was going to do, the first three movies. Fortunately, I still got to talk about the third one. That's a form of torture right there, just watching it. But anyway, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze. Now, I will say, if I had to put this against the other two movies, of course, they're in order pretty much. The first one will always be the best one, you know what I'm saying? And choreography in the first one was great too. And this one right here, Turtles 2, it's kind of silly because like I was saying in the last video, the parents, they were complaining about, the violence level and all that, which really wasn't that violent. You know what I mean? Like the Turtles barely used their weapons and everything. So in this one, if you paid attention to the beginning where the guys was robbing that store or the restaurant or whatever, and they had the guy Keno who walked in on them, who was played by Ernie Reyes Jr., which is one hell of a martial artist, by the way. He winds up taking a few of them out, and then when the rest of the dudes come out from the back or whatever they're carrying, Keno looks surprised and he knows that he can't take them all. So out of nowhere, you see the four heroes in the half shell coming down the stairs. And then when they jump up in the air, you get that freeze frame, which is a dope way of introducing them in this movie too. So Keno was surprised to see him like, yo, what in the world? So it's a big fight that breaks out, right? And if you really pay close attention in this movie, none of them really use their weapons. They're using different items in the shop, to beat up the dudes or whatever. Like you got Mikey with the sausages and all of that. So this movie right here, I seen this movie a long time ago as well on VHS. I never seen it in the theaters. Now I can remember that, even though I was about 4 years old back then, but I don't think I ever saw this movie in theaters. But when I first saw it, I was real excited because the first Turtles movie was great. And then this one right here was great. I didn't have that same feeling this time though, because, I'm an adult. So it was just like, I'm watching it for review purposes to refresh my memory. And one thing that I forgot to mention in the last review, that the guys that are responsible for the costume of the Turtles and Splinter and everybody else was from Jim Henson's Creature Shop. If y'all all know, Jim Henson was behind the Muppets characters and all of that, Kermit, Miss Piggy and all of them. But yeah, this was his creation. And I gotta say they did a damn fine job. But sadly, Jim Henson passed away before this movie was released. He had died in 1990 around the time the first movie came out. Rest in peace to him. But yeah, his team did a great job with these costumes. So another thing about this movie, Corey Feldman, right, does the voice of Donatello, but that was in the first one and in the third one. In this movie, I think they said he didn't do the voice of Donnie in this one because he was in a rehab or something like that. I don't know. But nah, it was somebody else who voiced Donnie in this one. But this movie really revolves around the ooze, the TGRI ooze, and the origins of the Turtles and everything. So basically, the entire movie revolves around them trying to get that canister back. So Shredder, comes back in this one, which I really couldn't understand that because I'm like, you got crushed by a trash compactor, son. How are you coming back? Like nobody knows, how he came back. But obviously, this movie takes place maybe a few days after the first one because Shredder, when he shows up, he's crawling out of the junkyard, or not the junkyard, but the I think it's the junkyard because that's where the foot soldiers' hideout was, somewhere near there. So Shredder shows up and takes command again. You know what I'm saying? So this time, instead of putting the foot soldiers on the turtles, they make these two like creatures, like these monsters and shit, out of a dog and a snapping turtle, and their names are Tokka and Rahzar. And I gotta say, man, those costumes look awesome as well. Um, now I believe Turtles of Time came out a little after this movie because in the game you fight Toga and Rahzar as the two bosses. Originally, I think they was gonna put Bebop and Rocksteady in the movie, but I forgot. Oh, I think it's because Peter Laird and what's the other dude name? The creators of the Turtles and all of that. I think they hated Bebop and Rocksteady or something like that. I don't think they liked them. That's why they did Toga and Rahzar, which they are practically Bebop and Rocksteady, like a baby version of them because they were supposed to be infants. You know what I'm saying? Now you got the rivalry between Leo and Ralph in this movie as well. Like once again, Ralph didn't learn his lesson from the first movie because when him and Leo gets into it, he winds up going off on his own. But this time, he recruits Kino, which Splinter specifically told him not to do. Because Kino goes undercover into the Foot Clan's hideout to join. So, Raph follows him there or whatever. So Raph helps him get through the test that he needs to get through to become a Foot Clan soldier. But eventually they get caught. So now, once again, Raph is fighting all these foot soldiers off on his own. But he gets ganged up on. Again. Again in this one. And apparently they learned their lesson from the first movie by doing a bridge type of fighting, one-on-one fighting. But they eventually kidnap Raph, and then Raph sees that Shredder is still alive, and he's surprised to see that. Just like I'm sure everybody in the crowd, in the audience, in the movie theaters at the time was surprised to see that because Shredder's ass was supposed to be dead. This dude got crushed by a trash compactor. I'm sorry, I still can't get over that. So now when Raphael was captured, Kino he panics and he runs away to try to find the other guys. So he runs back to April's place or whatever, and he's yelling up to the top floor. But then he runs into April, and April he's trying to explain to April what happened to Raph and everything. So now the turtles are going into the foot soldiers' lair to try to get Raph back. So as they're walking around the lair and everything, Donatello it's like he has such a sharp mind in this movie because they gave him his personality in his movie. Donnie is the smart one, so he knew exactly when and where the foot soldiers were going to come out and how because they get kidnapped themselves, but only for a short time. So when they get pulled up into the rope, they Shredder is telling the foot to bring out the basically not the torture device but the little pit that they're going to drop him in. It's a bunch of sharp objects stuck to like this platform. So he was really going to drop him in there, and then Splinter came out of nowhere and shot the arrow and freed the three turtles. So now a fight breaks out. And if you wonder why Splinter didn't join the fight, of course, he's just a puppet controlled by several people. So that's why you didn't really see him, fighting or whatever. But, it's a big fight that breaks out this time. And this time, the turtles, they they get away. So it's like a trope in this movie. They keep running into the foot. Which, some of the choreography in this movie was pretty good. I'm not gonna lie about that. Like, especially the choreography with, the turtles and the foot and all of that. But, Kino did his thing in this movie too. Like, especially when I was talking about at the beginning, where he was fighting, it was like 4 or 5 robbers he was fighting before the rest of them came out. You know what I'm saying? And then again, when he was being recruited by the foot, he had to go through a few tests. And one of the tests was him having to fight 2 people, I think. And he winds up beating both of them. So, yeah, his choreography in this movie was awesome. But, yeah, man, moving on. So, the professor like he was trying to dispose of all of the ooze because the ooze is what created the turtles, apparently. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, everybody knows that at this point. But he was trying to get rid of the rest of it, so he was down to the last canister, and Shredder took it from him. You know what I'm saying? So they kidnapped the professor, and this is before Toga and Rahzar became what they became. You know what I mean? Because Shredder already knew that the foot had failed several times before, you know, before the turtles were able to succeed and all that. You know, Shredder was pretty much the only one that was a match for him. But yeah, the foot, they failed several times in the first movie. So Shredder came up with a new plan by taking a snapping turtle, like I said, and a wolf or wolf dog or whatever, and turning them into Tokka and Rahzar. So they become idiots, you know what I'm saying? Because they're real young and they think Shredder's their mother. But yeah, they become idiots. And but the strength is immense though. Like they was able to toss the turtles from one side of the room to the other. The turtles had a hard time with them, and I don't think there was a match for them, to be honest with you. So the professor, he came up with a solution, right? You know, with the TGRI ooze to turn them back to, well, it was a cure, you know, from the ooze, but like he had made this cure and put it in this little tablet form, whatever. Or it's a cube. So it was Michelangelo's bright idea to put him inside two donuts or whatever, right? So when they get to the fight with Shredder, because it was like, you know, Shredder let Toga and Rahzar walk around the city to destroy it to get the turtles' attention or whatever. So when they meet up again, the turtles have this box of donuts or whatever. So they give Toga and Rahzar one, but Rahzar, he actually caught on to what they was trying to do. You know, like when he bit into the donut, he see that there was this cube. So that's when the whole fight breaks out and all of that. So, you know what I mean? After all of that happens, there's a final confrontation between the turtles and Toga and Rahzar and Shredder. So because they fight at least 2 or 3 times in this movie. You know what I mean? There's a lot of fight scenes in this movie. I think it's more in this movie than the first one, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong though. But they're fighting and then they eventually get tossed into this like into the wall. I think it was Mikey that got tossed into the wall. It was either Mikey or Donnie. So yeah, it was Mikey. So he gets tossed into the wall into this club or whatever, where Vanilla Ice is performing on stage, right? So everybody starts to panic at first because they like, yo, what the hell? The hell is that? You know, the Turtles and then Toga and Rahzar and all of that. So everybody now they still fighting the two creatures or whatever. So the professor is looking for the Turtles because he had another solution for them. So him and Donnie, they go under a staircase to talk. You know what I'm saying? And then the professor tells them how they can, turn them back into what they were. So as the turtles are still fighting, struggling against these two, Donnie tells the others to basically hold them down and take a fire extinguisher and stick it in their mouth to turn them back into what they were. You know, a snapping turtle and a wolf dog or a puppy. You know what I'm saying? So, I thought it was a husky at first, but nah, I don't think so. But anyway, so that's one scene in this movie, and I know you're supposed to suspend your relief for this. I mean, your relief. Suspend your mind, your brain or whatever at the door. But there was a scene in the movie where you got Vanilla Ice performing on stage, and then out of nowhere you hear this beat, right? And then he just starts performing the ninja rap, you know what I'm saying, song out of nowhere. Like I always questioned that moment, even when I was a kid, right? He just had lyrics out of his ass. That was an ass pool, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I know it's a movie and everything. I'm well aware. I get it. But yeah, then they break out with a whole choreographed dance or whatever. Everybody all of a sudden knew what to do. I thought that shit was pretty funny. You know what I mean? So the Turtles, after they defeat Toga and Rahzar, they break out with their own little dance moves and all of that. But after that's done, right? After that whole ridiculous scene is finished, Shredder pops up out of nowhere with the last canister of ooze. And then Kino comes out of nowhere and kicks out of Shredder's hand. So Shredder takes does he take, I think he takes April hostage. And you know what I'm saying, the Turtles follow Shredder out to a dock. So now we come to find out the Shredder drunk the whole can already, you know what I'm saying? So when he pops up again, he is now, the Super Shredder. And the funny thing about the Super Shredder is the fact that if y'all didn't know, Super Shredder is played by Kevin Nash. So Super Shredder pops up, right? This big brolic motherfucker. You know what I mean? So the Turtles are, talking to each other, basically saying there's no way they can win. But fortunately for them, Super Shredder had brawn, but he was also an idiot because he was tearing the dock apart, basically destroying himself. So when the whole dock collapsed, it collapsed on top of Shredder. So I believe that's what killed him, right? I'm just going to assume that killed him because, spoiler alert, he doesn't come back in the next movie. You know what I mean? So everybody along with me is trying to, wrap their brain around the fact that in the first movie, he fell into a trash compactor. Casey Jones basically committed murder and you got crushed to death, right? But you're still alive. You saw that everybody saw his helmet got crushed. You know what I'm saying? And now in this movie, he becomes Super Shredder and the dock falls on top of him, crushing him and killing him. That made no sense, man. Like, y'all know the little facial expression memes that Jackie Chan the memes that be having on Facebook with Jackie's face, where he be making that facial expression like, what? I can't really explain it, but that's the look I had made, man. I'm just like, when I first saw this movie, I'm like, how was he not crushed by the trash compactor, but a whole dock kills him in Super Shredder form? You know what I'm saying? So after the Turtles defeat Shredder, or Shredder defeated himself, Turtles returned back to the hideout, and they found out that Splinter had knew that they got caught, in the open. So it wasn't really, a bad ending. It was still a good ending or whatever, but Splinter made them do their backflips and all of that. So that's pretty much the end of the movie right there. And to give this movie a score, I would give Turtles 2 7 out of 10. It's not particularly one of my favorite films as far as the Turtle franchise, because like I said, the first one will always be the best one. Now I haven't seen Mutant Mayhem yet, but I heard it's pretty good. I'm definitely going to go check that out. I really want to see that joint. So yeah, what are y'all thoughts on this movie? It's still a classic in my eyes. I had this movie on DVD before, because right now I got the 5-pack. It's got Turtles 1, 2, 3, TMNT, and Turtles versus Batman. You know what I'm saying? It was a good price too. I think it was like $15, something like that. Not bad for 5 movies. But yeah, man, I loved it. You know what I'm saying? Well, I didn't love it. I liked it. Again, I didn't have to check my phone to see the time and everything or whatever, or lay back and start dozing off, because I didn't doze off once. Usually, if I'm laying back watching a movie and the movie's boring, I'm going to doze off. But this movie, I didn't have to. Now, as y'all know, I said I was going to talk about the first 3 movies, and I keep repeating myself, I know. But I don't know, y'all. I don't know if I'm going to be able to stay up on the 3rd movie. I'm going to have to watch it when I first wake up. You know what I'm saying? Like, that movie is just garbage, man. Turtles 3, it's horrible. It's horrible. Because, I don't know, man. It's just the premise of them going through time once again. You know what I'm saying? We already had, you know, they had comics where they went through time, you know what I'm saying? Older comics. And then the video game Turtles of Time, you know what I'm saying? Which Turtles 3 originally was called Turtles 3, Turtles of Time. But I guess the confusion, you know what I'm saying, with the game and all that caused them to drop that subtitle. So they just called it Turtles 3. Then, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. But we'll get to that when, I do that review. But anyway, man, I appreciate y'all for listening to me yap again. And I usually do my videos at night, but I decided to go ahead and knock it out this morning because I wanted a fresh mind on the movie. I went on ahead and watched the movie before I jumped on here. So yeah. Anyway, though, I'm glad y'all stuck around and listened. So let me jump off of here, and we will get to the next review this week. Don't worry. So everybody have a good day. All right. Peace.